The Torah has to be, the Baal Shem Tov teaches us a very important lesson that you have to think about every single second whenever you learn anything. And that is, this has to be relevant to me. Whatever you learn has to be relevant in Torah. The Parsha, the mitzvot, everything has to be relevant, not just to you, maybe once in your life. It has to be relevant every single day. Especially the Parsha HaShavua always has to be relevant, because the Parsha is our little miniature prophecy. We don't have prophets nowadays, but we have messages from Hashem. And the messages are encoded in the Parsha. A lot of times messages are encoded in Tehillim. And if you're a Tehillim sayer, that means if you say Tehillim so many times, if not every time, a pasuk will like pop out at you and will be telling you exactly what you need to hear, or will be describing your exact life. Or you'll find initials near pasuk of your name or somebody in your family's name. And one day, Be'ezrat Hashem, I'm going to set aside a lesson and show you in the Tehillim so many incredible codes, how you could find your own name, really encoded in Tehillim. And so sometimes the Tehillim talks to you, sometimes the Parsha talks to you, sometimes a random class will just speak to you. And sometimes you're walking in the street, you're in the supermarket, and somebody says something to you, and that's exactly what you need to hear. Hashem is always sending us messages. Hashem, who is the Almighty, all great. There's no words that we can sit here from today till eternity describing, using adjectives, and nothing describes Hashem. He's so big, and he's so concerned with every little tiny aspect of every little tiny person's life. And so, Bigadol, Bigadol, in general, the Parshat HaShavua is like this general message to the whole Jewish people and to each individual person. So this week we're going to war. It's a war. Now it's Thursday already today. We learn the Parsha on Thursday. Usually I teach Parsha on Sunday. And I start learning the Parsha Motzei Shabbos. Like before I go to sleep, I read like what to expect. And the whole Parsha is all about going to war. So have you gone to war lately? The beginning of the Parsha is going to war, and the end of the Parsha is about going to war. Amalek, the end of the Parsha is all about Amalek and the arch enemy of goodness in the world, and how we're going to ultimately we have to fight that. So what does that mean? So you all know you've been at war since you woke up, since you're conscious, since you're a teenager. Because what kind of a war are we talking about? We're not talking about like boom boom and throwing grenades and pushing buttons. Nowadays, all war is going to be like with computers. But we're all at war within ourselves. We have like these internal battles all the time, these dilemmas all the time. And so, what do you do with that? So, are we like? Do we ever get a day off? Do we ever get vacation? So we do. Sometimes we do. We certainly get a little bit of a vacation on Shabbos and on holidays. But basically, the fact that you're having inner conflict is nothing to worry about. It's the typical state of the Jewish person. And having inner difficulty or inner conflict is all about growing. You can't grow unless you push against something. You all know that, right? I told you my story about the gym. Did I tell you my story about the gym when I joined the gym? Okay, I don't know if they're going to put this on the thing. It's such a funny story. I'll tell you this story. So when I eat pretty healthy, I learned nutrition a long time ago, and I learned what to eat and how to eat, whatever. But I'm sitting and teaching the whole day. So it's not, it's not easy for me to get out and work out. And I'm very unmotivated. By the way, if any of you are personal trainers, we can make a deal. You come to my house for Shabbos and just work me out afterwards or before. So I'm very unmotivated in terms of exercise. Play a game. I like sports, like we all, but I'm not very. It's so hard for me to do anything in terms of I like to think a whole day and read and like teach and talk and counsel, and then in the house is plenty. But there's not like a real workout where you're really schwitzing. You know what I mean, schwitzing in Yiddish? Sweating, yeah. Anyway, so I decided, okay, I have to go join a gym, and I went and I joined the gym. And you know how it is, they're smart. They tell you to pay. If you pay, then you're going to come. If you just pay by the day that you go, forget it. But you pay in advance, and I did it. I fell for it. I paid 6 months in advance, and I said, I'm going to go every single day because I want to get my money's worth. Okay, so the first time I went in my regular sneakers clothing, a long dress, long skirt. and whatever. And the first time I go, after I got my initial, whatever, tour of the gym by the owner, who's wearing like this, skin tight, whatever, worked out. So she assigns me, it was a women's gym, she assigns me a trainer to, the first day. She said, you know what, we're going to give you this girl for a whole week. Because she saw that I had no idea what to do. I didn't know that in a gym you have machines. I didn't know what's a machine. I didn't know anything about a gym. I just knew that somehow you go in and you come out looking much better and feeling much better. I didn't know what you do inside. So she assigns me this girl who must have been your age. Like, she was a young girl. Okay, this was a long time ago, when I was still living in America. And she's like, could have been one of my students. And she asks me, okay, but now the roles have to reverse. She has to tell me what to do. She said, well, what do you want to work on? I said, I don't know, everything. I said, I don't know. So she said, okay. And she sat me down on one of the machines. She said, okay, first I'll show you how to operate these machines. So she sits me down on one of those machines, and it's a machine you have to go like that, right? It's going to fix my arms and my shoulders. Okay, very good, I'm happy. So she said, okay, you do this 8 times, and then you do it again 8 times, and do it again 8 times. I said, okay, that's okay. Then she said, wait, and then she put on 15 pounds of resistance, which, she put on those like little weights that are in a circle. So she put them on, and I couldn't push the machine up. So I said, why'd you break the machine? I can't do it. She said, no, that's called, now you have to push it. Before, when you were pushing it was doing nothing for you because there was no resistance. So I was like, oh, I couldn't, but. So I said, so she took off 5 pounds, and it was 10 pounds resistance. And I still couldn't budge it. And she took off she was like embarrassed that she she took off another 5 pounds. And finally I was like, oh my gosh, 5 pounds resistance. It was embarrassing. Now that I know it is, then I thought like, well, gosh, she's crazy. Like, what does she think I am? But now I understand. And she did that with every single machine. Whenever she tried, whatever machine I tried, first I did it, and then she put on the resistance and I couldn't do it. And then she said, okay, your goal is, now you're in charge of yourself. You know this whole drill because you've all been through. So everything that happens to a Jew, and I'm a teacher, so whatever happens to me, I know it's for my students. So I said, this is it. This is Hashem is showing me very clearly. If you don't exert effort, if you don't have resistance, you don't grow. And only when it really starts to hurt you is that muscle working. And are you really making a change in that muscle? And we don't like it. I'd much rather somehow sit in a sauna and somehow walk out all perfect. But that's not how it works. And Hashem didn't make it in this world. So we're in this battle. That's what the Torah says. Ki tetzei milchama al oivecha. And Hashem tells us that all you need to do is go out to war. Unetzano Hashem elokecha biyadecha. Hashem is telling us, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you, but you have to go out to war. You have to first go out, and then I'll help you. What's the name of this month that we're in? Elul. What does Elul stand for? Ani lidodi. I am devoted to God, my beloved. Vidodi li, and my beloved Hashem is devoted to me. Where does it start from? It starts from Ani. I have to take the first step. Ani lidodi, I have to first take the first step. In Elul, in the month of Elul, I have to take the first step. So we have to go out to war. We have to go. It doesn't mean we should look for challenges. It doesn't mean we should look for tests. But Hashem says you're going to go to war. But don't worry. I'm going to help you. And whatever it is, you're going to succeed. Okay, so now all of you should be looking at me and saying, well, I don't know. I've had a lot of inner conflicts, and what? And I failed miserably, right? Right? So what does it mean? Hashem is going to give this in your hand. Not just that, but it says, Vishavita shivyo. You're going to capture captives. In other words, you're going to take something, you're going to win the battle. First, you're going to enter into a battle. You're going to have a conflict. You're going to have a challenge. You're going to have a fight with somebody. You're going to have a fight with your Yetzer Hara, whatever it is. And you're going to win. Not just are you going to win, not only will you be victorious, but Hashem says, I'm going to actually give you a captive. That means something of the negativity of that challenge, you're going to own that now. It's going to become part of you. It's going to become good. It's going to become fixed. You're going to somehow uplift and transform. How does that happen? This particular parsha, Tetzei, which we always read in the month of Elul, has the most mitzvot of any other parsha in the Torah. And not just that, but there's no stories. It's all mitzvot. And that's good because in Elul we're doing a lot of mitzvot. We're supposed to try to increase mitzvot. If somebody asks you for a favor in Elul, it's a gift from Hashem. Hashem is sending you another mitzvah. Hashem sends us situations, people to help or whatever. Hashem is always sending you stuff. So this particular mitzvah of going out to war, the beginning of the parsha is going out to war, the end of the parsha is going out to war, and the Torah is guaranteeing us that we're going to win. But I want to tell you how sometimes a person could get discouraged. Now I'm sure maybe you ever were discouraged. I hope not. But the human condition is usually that we take a step backwards, we take a step forwards, we take 10 steps backwards. That's how life is. And I know that they're going to always tell you, it's the process that's important. It's not what you achieve, it's not what level you're on, but it's what level you're on now compared to what level you used to be on. So we believe that. We believe that the process is important. But we still would like results. We would like to see, okay, I'd like to be fixed, healthy, balanced, perfect, unaffected, and whatever. Fill in the adjective. So the Torah tells us a very interesting series of mitzvot that are all related. I'm going to read them to you. Did you learn the Parshat yet this week? A little bit? So you learned all those crazy mitzvot? Okay. What happens after going out to war and you capture you capture captivities? Then what happens? Yeah, well, if you're a man, right? If you're a woman, you don't go to war. But if you're a man and you go out to a war, this is a war, by the way, not with our enemies this is a war that was a war that was permissible to engage in, as opposed to a war that was required to engage in. So do you know who used to join the Israeli army in ancient times? Who joined that army? Anybody know? What?
Religious people.
Yeah, why did you say that, Avital? Because it's so interesting.
It was all a part of, it was the same thing.
Yeah, but I just realized something, and it's so interesting. You thought about your father for a second. You know why? You know who is allowed to join the Israeli army in biblical times? Only tzaddikim. Only the righteous. Only the best learners, the best rabbis. That's who joined the Israeli army in ancient times. And it also wasn't a war, it was a moral war. Do you know how till we went to war, it took us such a long time. We had to first send them messages of peace and back and forth, negotiations, whatever. Even if it was a war of defense, if somebody was coming to kill us, we would first oftentimes say, let's see if we could negotiate. It was Jews don't like to fight. Even to this day, Jews don't like to fight. And so, who went to war with the tzaddikim? And you know that it said in last week's parsha. Last week we also had a lot about war. Last week, one of the people who didn't have to go to war was someone who was afraid. Could you imagine if somebody was afraid? One of my students, she has a son who was in the last war 2 summers ago. You missed the war. Baruch Hashem, we didn't have war this summer. Usually every summer we have some kind of stuff going on here. So one of my students, her son had to go, and he was actually in the south, and he was very scared, and she called me up crying. She said he never was scared before, but he's scared. Please daven for him. We did, and he, Baruch Hashem, was okay. But he was scared, So the Torah says that if you're scared, you don't have to go to war. But the Torah qualifies and says, what were people scared of in those days? They weren't scared of being killed at all. They were scared that they didn't have enough merit to become such tzaddikim that through them miracles would happen to the Jewish people. You see who was in the soldiers? They were great people, great people. Okay, but here you have a great person who goes to war in the middle of war. He sees this woman, or they take captives, and then he desires this woman. And he's like shocked at himself. What in the world do I have a desire for that woman? These are not regular, this is not like the people who just join the army because they have nothing else to do with their lives. These were the tzaddikim. Okay, so the Torah says that he's allowed to, she's a captive, so he's allowed to bring her back to his house, wherever that is, and she has to make herself unattractive. They cut off her hair, they make her grow her nails long. In those days, so interesting, nowadays long nails is a style, right? In those days it was considered like claws, like disgusting. And they made her wear, if she was wearing fancy clothing, because sadly the women would do that. They would want to save their lives. So they would, whenever there was a war, they would dress up in a Nazistic manner, hoping that some men would want them. So she had to change her clothing to very, very plain, simple clothing. And she had to sit on the floor for 30 days in your house. And she was given time to mourn her past, her family, whatever. And then if you still wanted to marry her, you could. That's what the halacha is. It's such an interesting halacha. The next halacha after that says what? Let's say you hate her.
You hate a wife.
Yeah, you have two wives. In those days they were able to have more than one. And you hate one. And just your luck, she's the one who gives you the oldest child. The oldest son who you have to give right? And the next section tells us that son, there's such a possibility as having a boy, a son, who's so evil, or who has the potential for being so evil. They call him a rebellious son, a ben sorer moreh. That he steals crazy amounts of money, and he eats crazy amounts of meat and wine. The Torah made it impossible to fulfill this mitzvah. And so what happens with this boy? If such a boy would ever exist, then the parents would have to turn him over to the court and he would be killed. And the Torah makes it such that this can't possibly happen. The Gemara says it never happened in the history of the Jewish people that such a boy existed, meaning it had to be from age 13 to age 13 in a couple of months, 3 months I think. And he had to steal and eat ridiculous quantities of food, and it was impossible. The idea though behind it was that parents should really take care and try to raise their children properly. One of the ideas. And then the next section talks about if a person was killed according to the Beis Din. Let's say a person did a. You learned all this week?
Yeah.
Yeah, you learned it? So what's the connection, do you know?
What's the next one if a person was killed?
If a person, let's say a Jewish person, was found liable of death, the death penalty, and they hang his body, they can't hang it overnight. And you should know that the Gemara says that the Jewish courts, if ever there was a death penalty once in 70 years in Israel, it was considered horrible. But that's the next halacha. And then then after that, and there's all these detailed halachas, these detailed laws. Don't leave his dead body on this tree. Then there's the law of restoring a lost object, hashavas aveda. Not right away, but a little bit later. By the way, here in Israel, I don't know how it is, and you have this you have this really, I don't know if you have it in religious neighborhoods in Chutz La'aretz, but here in Israel, you always see signs like taped up, hashavas aveda. We found we found a necklace, found a wallet, found a Rav Kav. Found a pair of glasses, found an iPhone, please call, whatever. So that's called hashavas aveda. It's a very sweet mitzvah of restoring it, as opposed to, wow, I found an iPhone, yes. No, you found an iPhone, call it and make sure you figure out who the owner is. I once dropped my phone in the bus, and then I traveled to America. I forgot I was on the bus in the morning, and then I had that night to travel. So at a certain point when I was in America, I realized I didn't have my phone. It was my Israeli phone. My Israeli phone anyway is one of these like little kosher phones, like a little toy phone. But it had all my phone numbers on it. So anyway, I called it in America, and somebody picked up the phone and I said, hi, this is my phone. Hello, who are you? This is my phone. He said, oh, I'm so glad you called. This is in Hebrew. I'm so glad you called. It was in, I don't know where I dropped the phone, but that person lived in Ashdod. He lived far, he lived in a different city. And I said, I'm out of town, I'm in Chutz La'aretz now. So he said, okay, I'll take good care of it. And, tell me when you get back to Yerushalayim, and I'll send it to you. I'll come to Yerushalayim from Ashdod. And that's what he did. And he brought it and he dropped it off. It was such a cute Hashavas Aveda. It was such a sweet, it was just so sweet. Okay. All of these mitzvot, there's lots and lots of mitzvot. These mitzvot, some of them seem to be so irrelevant, and some of them seem to be so outlandish, and some of them seem to be so extreme. So I'm going to read to you. I'm going to learn with you a teaching from one of the Rebbes of one of the students of the Baal Shem Tov. And he asks the following question, going back. So these mitzvot have to be connected. All of these situations are connected. And the Gemara does connect them. The Gemara says, yes, if you go out and you go to war and you see this woman, then probably, and you take her as your wife, she's not going to be good. And in the end, you're going to hate her. And in the end, she's going to have a rotten son. And in the end, you're going to be, you're going to want to divorce her. And in the end, maybe he'll commit a crime. And all these things are going to happen to you one after the other. That's what the Gemara talks about. And which means every time, one mistake causes another. But the Baal Shem Tov teaches something the exact opposite. He says the following. And it's going to sound a little bit, perhaps, shocking. But before I tell you what he says, I want to ask you a question to keep in mind. Did you ever try to help someone and in the end it backfired and blew up in your face? Did you ever do something that you really had good intentions, and somehow the person misunderstood, or the situation didn't work out, or the exact opposite happened? You know how it is when you're in school, the troublemaker always talks to you, and then you say, shh, listen to the teacher, and that's the teacher catches you, right? You're trying to help, right? Were all of you that kid? Yeah? I was that teacher. Meaning, I always, whatever. The teacher catches the kid who's not necessarily the guilty party. Okay, now all teachers know that. But it used to be, you're trying to do somebody a favor. A lot of times, it blows up in your face. What is that? Or sometimes you really have the right intention and you want to do a mitzvah, and somehow not only do you not do a mitzvah, but somehow you do an aveira from that same exact thing. What is that? Or sometimes you purchase something, or you go somewhere, and you don't know why. You just have this feeling that you should go, or you sometimes just have a feeling you should buy that thing. You just don't know why. I'm not talking about if you're crazy, if you're obsessed with shopping. Well, that's a whole different category. But we're talking to women after all. But sometimes you just buy something, and all of a sudden you realize, and then sometimes you realize that you need it, and sometimes you realize that you don't need it, or whatever. Okay. Chassidus teaches us that every single entity in the universe has a spark of godliness in it. Everything. Whether it's a person, whether it's a place, whether it's an object, everything has inherent kedusha, holiness. Everything has potential holiness. And the soul of a Jew, which is holy, no matter what you've done, your soul is holy. No matter what you've done, no matter how little you know, no matter how little Judaism you do, your soul is exactly a perfect Jewish soul. It never is affected, the essence of you. The outer part of your soul can get affected, but the essence of all of us is the same. And the essence of all of us is holiness. And holiness draws and is magnetized and is magnetically attracted to holiness. So the Baal Shem Tov teaches that if you're attracted to something, the person who married this woman, he thought to himself, there must be a spark of goodness in her, because I'm attracted to her. I wouldn't be attracted to her otherwise. Remember I told you that these soldiers were tzaddikim. So if a tzaddik is attracted to something, there must be something redemptive There must be something holy. There must be part of my neshama is in that person, place, or thing. So he goes and marries her, and he sees that, no, she's not good. And he thinks, I made a mistake. She's not good. Now that I married her and I see what she's like, there's no spark of holiness in her. I thought she was a holy convert. Maybe I thought she was going to be like Tamar, Rus, all these Rachav, all these great women who were tzaddikises. And she's a mess. She's not at all. So he gets discouraged. He said, probably it was a Yetzer Hara of mine, not a Yetzer Tov. Not just, but then a Yetzer Hara, a Yetzer Tov comes into his head and he says, well, you know what, but maybe she's not good. But maybe she has a spark in her that will turn into a child, and that child will be good. So he hopes, and he sees she's pregnant, and he hopes that maybe that's what it was all about. And then the child comes out, and the child's no good. Okay, so we never had a real Ben Sorer Moreh, but we've had kids who didn't turn out the best. And so her child is not good. And so this man is even more depressed. And he says, look at that, she's not good. I really messed up. My intentions were, I wasn't looking for something bad, but my intentions were to just fight this war. But all of a sudden I picked up something, then I thought, okay, I rationalized, maybe that's good, maybe she's good, then maybe the child will be good. Nothing is good. To the point where he's so bad that he has to send him away. And maybe he's so bad that he can't even find one good thing about him. The halacha says that maybe he even commits a crime that he has to be killed for. Now again, this is an allegory. I mean, it's pshat in halacha, but it's also allegorical. And so this man who was trying his best to be good, or this person, because it's all us, is trying so hard to be good, and he seems to fail and fail and fail and fail, and everything that he seems to think that maybe some good could come from this, some good could come from that. No. So Baal Shem Tov says, then Hashem says the next halacha. The halacha is, you can't hang a person's body. Now why can't you hang a person's body? If a person is, Baruch Hashem, we don't have criminals and we hang. But let's say in biblical times there was somebody who did something that was so bad that the court had to kill him. That means they warned him in public. They warned him a few times. And then he went and publicly, in front of witnesses who were saying, don't do that, don't do that. He went and did that crime, whatever it was. It's very hard to convict in Jewish law, in Torah law. So let's say he did such a thing. So the Torah says, you know why you can't hang his body? Because he's still a Jew. And he still has holiness in him. And even if he did the wrong thing, he's still essentially a Jew. And then the Torah says not just that, but a few halachas later, there's this concept of Hashavas Aveda, which means I lost something and I needed to be restored back to me. And so what did you lose? You lost your hope in yourself, and you lost the righteousness of that whole line in the family. And the Torah says, no, it's not lost. Somehow, for some reason, there was Kedusha in that woman, but it was buried very, very deeply. And there is Kedusha in that boy, but it's buried very deeply. And you might not ever see it, but you should know that you've released something good in the world, even though it appears to be so bad. The Ishbitzer Rebbe says that when Mashiach comes, one of the happiest things that we're going to experience, besides all the perks of, all the good things, no war, no death, no illness, no monetary problems, and peace, and finally the whole world serving Hashem, that's all the good, we're going to experience all those great things. But in Kabbalah we're taught that one of the, personally, one of the happiest things that you personally, then each of us personally experience, will be to see that even every sin that we've done somehow had a redemptive good spark of holiness in it. Every mistake we ever made, somehow it was rooted in good. You didn't mean to make that mistake. You meant to do a mitzvah. Somehow it came out the other way. The root of it, the source is holy. Now, we did the wrong thing. We're responsible for that wrong thing. We're going to have to clear up that wrong thing. But the source of it is good. Whatever you've done wrong, Mashiach is going to show us that. Our minds will expand. Now our mind's very small, but our mind will expand. We'll be able to see a much bigger picture of our life, and we'll see that, oh, I did that because of this reason. It was really, it came from a good place. That's why these halachas now are relevant to us, just to give us, because El is all about, we have to do tshuva, we have to try to get better. You know, you can't do tshuva, you can't get better if you feel so hopeless. If you think that there's a little bit of hope for you, then you can start making, you can start working. But if you feel that there's no hope whatsoever, you just can't. You don't have the push to make any changes in your life. It's like, let's say you decided, this happened to me when I was about, I think I was in 9th or 10th grade. So I decided, in those days I was a little chubby. And so I decided that I'm going to go on a diet. And I actually went on a diet for about 2 days. And, I was starving myself. When you're 9th grade, what do you know? You just think you have to starve yourself and, whatever. So I was so hungry. And I was positive that I'm getting like skinny, whatever. Because I was really chubby when I know it's hard to imagine, but I was chubby when I was a little kid. So, and I went to a new school. It was 9th grade. I went to a new school and all the girls were wearing such nice clothes and they were all so like put together, and I, wasn't like that. So, okay, I'm gonna be like everybody else, and I'm going to go on a diet. And I really starved myself for a couple of days. And then a good friend of mine said, and I was like so proud of myself, yes, and a good friend of mine said to me, I think you should go on a diet. You look like you're gaining weight. And I was like, what? I was so like thrown back. I lost all hope, because here I was trying so hard, and the exact opposite. Instead of somebody saying to me, hey, you look like you're whatever. In those days, it's all about what your friends think you are. It's not about reality. It's about your peers and your friends. And so I felt like, forget it. I'm not going to go on a diet if this is what I probably went out and ate ice cream or whatever. I don't remember what I did. Baruch Hashem, it all worked out. But I remember that feeling of just when I was trying so hard and somebody criticized me on that exact thing. If you don't have hope, you can't change. You don't have motivation. And so in this week's Parshat, the Torah is telling us about a person who really could have looked like he did the wrong thing. And the Baal Shem Tov says, no, he didn't do the right thing. He didn't do the wrong thing. He did the right thing. He just can't see it yet. And he might never see it until who knows what else has to occur for the person to see what good came out of even the mistakes that you made. Friday night, you go to shul? You go to shul Friday night? You should come to shul Friday night. It's such beauty. Here in Israel, everybody goes to shul. The girls go to shul Friday night. And we have such a beautiful davening where I daven. And it's such a great singing. You came last week, right? Such a good singing in the davening. So at the end of the main song of the Friday night davening, it's called Lechadodi. At the end of that song, everybody turns around to the back door of the shul to greet the Shabbos queen. And sometimes people don't know, like if you don't know what's going on, like what? Why is it?
Like you stayed turned around.
Yeah, we all say, because you didn't know that. I didn't know if I should tell you. I figured you'd figure it out.
Yeah, I was like, why is people still facing the back? Like,
because we sing a long time, because they sing, and when I go to shul Friday night, they sing and sing and sing and sing, and they sing and they clap and they do the whole thing. So everybody says, but whatever it is, the first time the first time I saw that, I was very surprised, because really you're turning your back to the Aron Kodesh. Because usually you face the Aron Kodesh and then you're turning your back. So what is that? And you're greeting Shabbos, like, okay, Shabbos comes in and goes straight to the Aron Kodesh. Like, why is your back to the, right? Or whatever you're greeting, the presence of Hashem, whatever it is, why are we turning backwards? And I remember hearing such a beautiful teaching, and I don't remember who said it. So I think I heard it in the name of Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach. This might sound like him, and I think he might have quoted Reb Tzadok from Lublin, but I'm not sure of either of those, so they should all forgive me, and whoever really said this should also forgive me. But I remember learning that you turn around to remember your past, to face your past. And you know that when we turn around, we bow. We turn around to the back of the shul, and we bow to greet the Shabbos Queen. And then we turn forward again and bow to the front, because the Shabbos Queen then goes up to the front of the Aron Kodesh. But when you turn around for a few seconds to the back, you turn to the west, you turn to the back of the shul, and you bow, you're acknowledging your past, and you're acknowledging that somehow every single thing that I ever did, even the wrong things, and every single thing that ever happened to me, even the hard things, I have to acknowledge them. And I have to say thank you, Hashem, because they made me what I am. Now, I don't want to stay in the past, and I don't want to remember all that stuff, so I turn to the front. And then I bow to the front, and I say, Hashem, now let me go forward with all of the lessons of the past, but the commitment of the future. That's this parsha. That's all the wars. War isn't bad. It's good if you're having internal turmoil and dialogue, and it's not a bad thing if you're fighting with your friends and fighting with your family, and I don't mean fighting like, really, but if you're trying to work out your thought process, you're trying to work out like, who am I? It's not bad to be confused. It's good. And guess what? Once you figure out who you are, and then you go on that path, you think that you know who you are for the rest of your life? No. Every few whatever, you keep changing and saying like, am I on target? Am I still that same person? Is this still my goal? Am I facing the right way? So to remember that the root of everything is somehow good. That doesn't mean we should do bad. This is a dangerous teaching, because right? Because say, oh, okay, she said everything I do is good. So let's see, what can I do today? No. We're accountable. We have to keep everything according to halacha, according to Jewish law. We have to do everything right. But when we do mess up, which is inevitable because we're humans, not to lose hope and say, forget it. But to say, somehow my soul was sensing something. I don't yet know what that is. I'm not yet so in tune with my neshama, with my soul. I'm not yet so connected. That wiring from my soul to my brain isn't so clear and strong that I can know exactly what it is. But I believe that everything in its root is good. I'm going to keep the laws completely. But if I mess up, somehow one day I'll find out that was also part of my journey, even if it's just to do tshuva for that particular one thing. We don't know till Mashiach comes what it is, the mystery of our actions. It's a big mystery. But never ever to give up hope. Never to look down on yourself. Never to say, I can't believe what I did. What was I thinking? Okay, we all make mistakes, all of us. The bigger, the more righteous the person, sometimes the more big their mistakes are. But not to let go. And to do tshuva, or to try to come close to Hashem and Elul out of love. Not out of aggravation, not out of fear, not out of worry. I mean, if all those things work for you, okay, b'vakasha. They don't really work for me. But to say, Hashem, like, okay, I'm really ready to do the right thing. I'm really ready to be real. Help me to be real. Help me to really love you. Help me to really love Jews. Help me to really love myself. Help me to really love the Torah. That's Elul. That's what we're at now. We got 2 more weeks left. Not even. We have 18 days. Today is 12 days in Elul. And we have less than 18 days. Oh, Hashem must bring Mashiach already. In this year, Bezrat Hashem. Okay, was that all right? You guys are okay? You have a question? Okay, good Shabbos.